Okay, so today we are going to take a look at the difference between factors and multiples. These are two very commonly mixed up vocabulary terms. So hopefully by the end of this, you will have a better understanding of the difference and how they are used. We're going to start with factors. Factors are the number you multiply to get a product. So basically, you have two factors working together that you multiply and then they give you some sort of answer. The other thing about factors that we should note is that they are limited, right? So that means there are only so many factors of each number. The other thing to note about factors is that they're always going to come in pairs, right? So there's always going to be a set of numbers that you're multiplying together to get that number. So for example, factors of 12, I can multiply 1 times 12, that would be one factor pair, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. And these would be all the factor pairs of 12. Another way that we use factors is when we start looking at exponents. Exponents are really just a shortcut to a way of how we are going to express repeated multiplication. Kind of like we use addition or multiplication as a shortcut for repeated addition, right? Because if you think about multiplication is really groups of a number. So when I say 2 times 3, I'm really saying two groups of 3. So instead of adding 3 plus 3, I can just multiply. Exponents kind of work the same way, except for it's that shortcut to multiplication that's being repeated. So for example, if you did something like talked about in science, when a cell is going through cell division and it splits, every time it splits, it doubles. So then like one cell becomes 2, 2 cells become 4, 4 cells become 8, 8 cells become 16. So there's really this repeated multiplication because every time you're multiplying by 2. So that's an example of when we use exponents. When we're looking at exponents, you'll usually see this bigger number, which is called the base. This is the number that is the factor that's being used. Okay? And then you'll see this smaller number, and this is called the exponent, or the power. And that's going to tell you how many times the base is used as a factor. So here we have a base of 3. So we have 3 to the power of 2, or 3 squared is another way you might see it. What this means is we're going to use 3 as a factor 2 times. So it becomes 3 times 3, or 9. A really common misconception is that people will just, because they know it has to deal with multiplication, they'll do something like 3 times 2. So just make a note of that. It is not 3 times 2, right? So that's our kind of our rundown of factors. So now we're going to take a look at multiples. Multiples are actually what you get when you use factors. They are the product of a number times any other whole number, right? Other than 0. The thing about multiples, if you think about something, when you hear that word multiple, it keeps happening, right? So if you think about multiples, they are unlimited, meaning they go on forever. There is no limit to the number of multiples that you could find for a number, unlike factors, which are limited. So the other thing I want you to think about with multiples is you want to skip counting, right? So if you were counting by it. So multiples of 12, the first one is going to be 12 times 1, which is 12, right? Then if you added 12 or you counted by 12, the next one would be 24, which is 12 times 2. Count by 12s, the next one would be 36. That would be 12 times 3. 48 is 12 times 4. 60 is 12 times 5. 72 is 12 times 6. And like I said, these will go on forever. So these are some of the first multiples of 12. So just to recap, factors are limited. They come in pairs. So factors of 12 would be 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Multiples go on forever, and it's like you're skip counting by that number. So you start with the numbers. We start with 12 and we just keep going. So 12, 24, 36. Those are our multiples. Make sure that you finish out your notes and then get this saved so you have access to it later.